So here I am about to start a Great Sorrow Fuzz build. Just taking the resistor, putting it through the holes, and all my builds are made with through-hole parts, so like not any of the cheap board-mounted stuff, like the tiny little parts that are in like cell phones or computers or whatever. These are full-size components, partly because it's just easier for me to do builds with, and also because it just sounds better. And just add a little bit of solder there. That's in. Now for the other side. And that's that resistor in. And I gotta do this for every single one of those components. And some of them have more than 2 leads, like a resistor. Transistors have 3. ICs have usually 8. Sometimes up to like 16, the ones that I usually use anyways. And you can't see it. I got my computer there, and I have it all set up so it's showing me the names of the parts, like R1, R2, R3, or C1, C2, C3, and that's where I matched it up to where it says it on here. And for example, this 100 ohm resistor, which you can see there, that one is going to go in R6. So I find R6. Sorry if you're just seeing shots of my hands, it's a little hard to... I tend to, once I put them through the hole, just spread them out a bit so it stays in a bit better. Ideally I'd have a jig set up so that I could put all the resistors in at once and then just do a soldering job, but all at once and cut them all away, but I don't have one of those, and just because I'm especially finicky about it, I like double checking each of my solder joints as I'd make them. And then just like that, there they are, and that's in there. Snip it off. Snip it off. There's the second one. And I have 3 more of these resistors of this value to go, and then as soon as I go through resistors of one value, I'll move to resistors of the next value, and then once all the resistors are in, this one is R12. Once they're all in, I'll move on to the capacitors usually. Usually the order I go is resistors, then film capacitors, then the ceramic capacitors or mica capacitors, or whichever is used for those lower values. Then from there I go to the electrolytic can capacitors, then diodes, then transistors, and then well, actually I put in sockets for ICs before the diodes and transistors, but after all that's in, I put in the ICs and the sockets. Basically I do everything in the order of the stuff that's least heat damaged to and then work my way towards the stuff that would get most damaged by heat. That way, you know, the resistors, they're the least likely to get heat damaged, although you don't want to hold soldering iron to them too long. Well, they'll be on the board the longest, so It just makes sense. Whereas you definitely don't want to fry a transistor IC or anything germanium or and there's R17. So as I said, this is my, as I think I said, this is my Great Sorrow Fuzz. It's the latest version. Basically, it's like my earlier version, except I added a buffer stage at the end because I just wanted to see if I could tame the effect of how a lot of fuzz pedals or pedals that just have a volume pot at the very end of the circuit is that they have bad output impedance, and so it just makes it really annoying for when you're changing the volume and it changes your tone and things get darker and they don't play as well. So I added an output buffer stage so that it'll have much better output impedance and play better with things after it. Okay, and here's the last 100 ohm resistor, and that is R30. And where's R30? R30 is right there. And R30 is actually one of the last components in the circuit before the signal leaves to, well, whatever's next in your signal chain. A bit of solder there. Bit of solder there. So, I guess the whole reason I'm doing this video is just, you know, to show it takes a lot of time and patience to do one of these pedals. I mean, I have simpler circuits that don't take anywhere near as long to build. Like, this is the circuit board for my Hideaway Boost. You'll notice it doesn't have the part names on there. That's just a mistake. I have to check every time on my computer where the layout does have the part names on them, like R1, R2, yada yada yada. That was a mistake, I think, on the part of the manufacturer. But you know, when you have mistakes like that with a board, sometimes you have to work even longer. But this one doesn't take too long. This, on the other hand, you'll see the difference between the size of the two boards and the components on them. Much longer. Add in the fact that, you know, at the moment, I'm going to try and fix this with future design, but at the moment, this PCB design, I have to wire the pots to the board like that. This isn't the pot used in the circuit, it's just one I have lying around. But ideally, and this is something I'm going to be doing with future designs if luck goes my way, ideally the pots would be mounted directly to the board, which just makes everything much more rigid, and it's faster to build because I don't have to solder a wire there, clip it to size, and then carefully solder it in. I've just put it through these 3 holes here, and then you know, be ready to mount once all the pots are on. But yeah, I have to, you know, attach wire to all the switches and pots. On this one, there's 4 pots and 2 switches. Which leads me into the next change I made to the Great Sorrow Fuzz. The mid-range toggle switch. I decided to take that out and replace it with a pot that does the same thing, except because it's a pot, I can, well, you can sweep through the mid-range values rather than being stuck with set ones. So that's and this is the prototype board, by the way, so but it should work. I've used that in other configurations with other designs I've had many times, so it should work. But you know, when you come up with a design, you things will work nice, but then you think, oh, maybe I could do this, or maybe there's one aspect of the design that people didn't like in an otherwise popular pedal, and so you change them, make the revisions, and so yeah, this one has two of them. The enhanced output stage buffer. I think that was the right spot. Yeah, R5. I'm putting in 100k resistors now, by the way. 100 kilo ohms. The ones before were 100 ohms, so these are just a tad bigger in size or value. About 1,000. And then sometimes you'll have, you know, solder that doesn't want to flow. So if it's a part like a resistor, I'll just hold it a little bit longer, not too long, because I don't want to, you know, accidentally do anything to the board, burn it, or have the heat work the trace loose. All the circuit traces like this here. So yeah, sometimes there's mods that I change, like well, the mid-range switch, or the addition of that buffer. Or other times with revisions, you want to, like, you know, if you see the size of these traces here, yeah, it keeps getting dark when I try to hold this closer, but yeah. I'm at a point now where I try to make sure all my traces are at least that thick, simply because I want to make sure that you know, there's a good strong connection between components. And if you have very thin traces, well, there's less of a pathway for current to move, and well, thinner traces also lift much easier and are more easily damaged. R11, where's R11? Sometimes, even though I designed these boards, it's a search. It's a long search for the right spot. Like, I showed you the size difference between this one and my hideaway boost. Well, this isn't even anywhere close to being my largest circuit board design. It's like, it's definitely not the smallest, and I do try to design my boards to be as small as possible. Although as soon as I get the get them redesigned for having the pots mounted straight to the board, it'll be moot, because I just need to design them to fit the perimeter of the inside of the board. But when I'm doing the wiring, like, yeah, that kind of wiring, you know, I want to save as much space as possible, because the wires do take up room, even though they're thin. I use solid core, what is it, 22 gauge wire in all different colors. A lot of people prefer the stranded wire, but I use solid just because everything stays in place better. But solid, once you work with it, it stays in place. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, this isn't even my largest board. That's the board for the TCT, the Toronto City Transit Deluxe. So like, it's just about doubles the size of that. And I had these boards made up in that one order where, you know, the order got accidentally had all the part numbers put on. So one of these takes a really long time to build, and well, anyone who's followed my videos and seen that delay pedal, you'll know there's a lot of knobs and switches and whatnot that have to be wired up, and each of those I do by hand. R16, where are you? R16. So yeah, these are a lot of work to do. And I'll just sit here and build them up. And then when I'm not sitting here building them up, there's R16. I'm usually lying on my bed and you know, I'll be watching Netflix or YouTube or whatever at the same time, so I'm not completely bored out of my mind, but I'll have the Eagle software. That's the software I use for designing my schematics, and yeah, that's good. I thought that had bubbled up for a second, but that was just I don't know, my eyes playing trick on me. Yeah, I'll be lying around my bed and just coming up with new designs or new revisions for old designs, and then laying them out. And I'm going to be narrowing my product range, probably, oh, I don't know the exact time range. I'll let all of you know when, but I'm gonna soon be focusing on a narrower range of pedals, and the flagship pedal. I won't tell you which one it is quite yet. I'll leave that as a surprise. But the flagship pedal that will be starting the soft reboot, R22. That one, I've had a guy, Jay from Dead Man Design. He's been designing artwork for it, and I've seen the rough drafts, and he's finishing up the artwork right now, and I'm pretty excited. So it's going to have nice artwork, and then what I think I'm going to do, because ideally I'd have a silk screen over powder coat enclosure and whatnot, but you know, that's pretty costly for me at the moment. So what I might do is I'm going to try getting the artwork printed out on vinyl stickers, and then like you'd have for a decal for the back of your car or something. R31, where are you? Oh, at the very end. And then I'm going to take them, and rather than the bare aluminum enclosures, my parts supplier has, they recently started getting in Hammond enclosures with black paint finish, Hammertite style. You may have seen them in a couple of pictures I posted. I used a couple of them for double Great Sorrow Fuzz Stormfront Overdrive builds, which looks pretty cool. But I think, you know, the black enclosure with the artwork on top, all on top there, I think it'll look pretty nice, and then I'll just get a clear coat on top, and it should make a pretty nice presentable pedal. And then, I'll do a prototype run of the boards that I have for that one design. And then when I'm ordering boards in for the next design, I believe that I should be ready to start doing the whole through hole pot thing. Have them mounted to the circuit board, and that'll speed up the building and will just make the pedal more durable, because the circuit board will be mounted in one spot. Like I said, I use these solid core wires because they stay in place and usually hold the circuit board quite firm. They don't move around a lot, but to have the rigidity of everything being all in one spot, held in place by the back of the pots or the switches, would be really nice. But I'll still be using quality parts. I'm using 47K, by the way. There's two of them. R27. Yeah, the parts I use, as I've mentioned in descriptions for my pedals before, are alpha pots. Hopefully that'll remain they'll remain alpha even when I switch to doing the PC board mounted pots. Come on, get in there. Yeah. Good. I thought it wasn't going to flow for a second, but I got it in. Yeah. That was 27. Yeah, R27, R28 is next, which is right next to it. Nice and handy. You'd think someone designed it that way. And then, so alpha pots, switchcraft jacks. I've already decided that, unless it's something of better quality, I'm gonna switch, or not switch, stay with the switchcraft jacks, simply because none of the generic jacks I've tried that are sold in the stores around Toronto, just none of them cut it, and they're a decent price, the switchcraft ones, and they just seem to be the best quality for the money. I'm sure there's better jack out there from other companies, but the switchcraft jack, they're what I'm sticking with. Like all my guitars, I have switchcraft jacks, the mono jacks wired into them. And then my pedals, like I could save space and go with like enclosed barrel type jacks, which switchcraft does make a couple of them, but I prefer the open, like this might be a little hard to see. Yeah, that style of jack. It's nice and reliable. Usually you have one mono jack and then one stereo jack. Not because my pedals are built stereo, one day maybe, but no, the stereo jack is there to help facilitate, basically, I try to make as many of my designs work with batteries as possible. So with battery operated pedals, all my pedals run off of the DC power as well, but the ones that can, I leave space for battery room to run off the battery, and it's handy to be able to unplug the one jack and have it cut the connection to the battery so it doesn't drain when you're not using it. Like that's why you need to plug in a patch cord to your boss pedal or whatever for it to turn on. Because, what am I at? 33k. Because, you know, they thought about it, and especially with them, because they're active buffered bypass, they'll be continuing to draw current if you leave the battery in. R3. Like, having your pedals in bypass doesn't mean that the circuit is, like, off in quotation marks. Like, the transistors and everything are still getting, in most cases there are some designs that are a little weird, usually vintage designs. Let's see, R3, right? Sometimes when I lose my track of thought, or train of thought, sorry, I double check just to make sure, even though I know I put it in the right spot. But yeah, when you turn your effect off, it doesn't mean that the circuit is off. It just means that your signal isn't going through the circuit. So, like, you can have true bypass and no signal going through and whatnot, but if you leave the battery in and you don't remember to take out your patch cord, it'll eventually drain it, which really sucks with some pedals. I had a Electro-Harmonic Soul Food, and when I first got it, it came with the adapter, R20, and I kept thinking to myself, why is this thing always running through batteries so fast? Then I realized, oh, this thing has buffered bypass, so maybe I should try putting it in true bypass, which I forget if that made much of a difference, but I think the battery lasted a little bit longer. But then I, you know, took some time to actually read up on the pedal, and based on the Klon design, it has this charge pump in it, which ups the voltage internally, and it draws a lot of current. So, you know, you can have it in there and it'll just go nuts with the life of your battery. So it was at that point that I decided I think I'm going to use the adapter that came with the box rather than waste any more money on batteries for that. R29, no, not R29, sorry, R21. That in there. And when years later, you know, I now have my own Klon design, and it has a charge pump in it to give that extra headroom. And I do include a battery snap in there, so you can use it with battery, but you know, I wouldn't recommend doing that because you'll run through it pretty fast if you don't unplug it when not playing or use a 9V supply. I suppose I could put it in a smaller designed box if I wanted to, and took the space for the battery out, but I kind of like the design in the larger Hammond 1590 BB box. Just more space for me to place components, especially with the latest revision that I've done for that, which hopefully, you know, I'll have out sometime in the future, hopefully sooner rather than later. anyways, I've talked for about a half hour here, so no, I'd probably have this done have a lot more done if I wasn't talking, but you know, this kind of stuff takes a while, and then, you know, I'll be putting in things like capacitors. That's a used one, not a new one, but just as an example, capacitors or IC chips. This isn't from this circuit, but again, just as an example. Or diodes, which I don't feel like digging through and grabbing one, but you know, a whole lot of parts just to make one effect pedal, and as I said, I try to use good quality parts. I've been making an effort to switch to like metal film components so that there's less noise and tighter tolerances, so more consistency with the builds, and just you know, less noise. And the film caps just they seem to, I don't know, make a little bit of a difference with the sound. Like, I wouldn't want to use like big ceramic disc caps as coupling caps in a circuit, for example. And electrolytic caps, I've lately been trying to rate them a bit higher than I used to do, rating them for at least 25 to 35 volts. I would never go as low as 16 volts anymore, because I've been on a kick of trying to design my pedals so that they can run on higher voltages. Which, by the way, if a pedal does work, I'll, you know, put it in the instruction manual, or you know, make changes and make a post about it, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think I've talked long enough. That's a little bit of what goes on with building one of these. And I'm sure, you know, not everyone will stick to the end of this video, but yeah, this is what I go through every single time I build a pedal, and whenever one of you buys a pedal off of me, it means a whole lot. It's a lot of work. Like, there's the you know, the active mental part of designing the pedal. There's the whole you know, just the repetitive task of placing all the components and everything. There's the little fiddly part of actually wiring the pedal in. You have to drill holes in the enclosure and everything, and then you know, once I get the artwork done, and hopefully it'll work with the vinyl stickers, I'm going to be applying that on and putting clear coat on, and then trying to sell them. So it really means a lot when you guys buy my pedals. And you know, I try not to design anything that I wouldn't use myself. So like, even if it's based on a design I'm not particularly fond of, I would, you know, tweak it so that not only was whoever asked for it or inspired me to make it was happy, but I'd make it so that I was happy. Like, this isn't a pedal I built, obviously, but I've had a couple people bring me metal zones to mod. I'm not doing mods anymore, or at least not for the next while, at least. By the way, just wanted to put that out there. But you know, I didn't give back the metal zones until I had enough change that, you know, it was usable and I could get some tones I was happy with. And I'm quite proud of these pedals, and I'm just hoping that I can take the company, well, make it a company, Tom Freeman Audio Effects. It'd be nice to have people to hire and help me out and everything, but at the moment this has to be a one-person operation, because I can't afford to pay anyone, and yeah. But for all of you who have bought my pedals or are planning on buying them in the next little while. Again, I really, really appreciate it. You're helping me out a whole lot, not just helping me realize, you know, passion project of mine, but, you know, yeah, the money's, I mean, it's not like the money's going to charity or anything, but the money helps me out quite a bit. I mean, everyone does work because they want to be bringing money, but you know, I use the money and usually take what I need to live off of and invest it right back into whatever's left over, right back into building the pedals. And so, thanks one last time. Anyways, I'd have said that last part a bit more enthusiastically, but it's like 1 in the morning, and don't want to wake anyone, so I'm kind of speaking softly. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this rather long video, just listening to me talk, without even any guitar playing. And, well, if you want to learn more about my pedals, just feel free to message me at tomfreemanaudioeffects@gmail.com, and please follow this YouTube channel and Tom Freeman Audio Effects Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. And I have a reverb store. I don't think I have much up there at the moment, but we'll try and get some stuff on there soon. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get updated, all that stuff. Thanks again.